People ask if I still fast often, and it's because I dropped 135 pounds of fat over 7.5 months, and I used a lot of fasting, a lot of longer fasts to get my mind right, if you will. So that being the case, I kind of want to walk through that first little bit with regard to fasting and what exactly I go through, and maybe the reason why I still do it. I do notice that occasionally I will creep up in weight, and that's easy to say. You burn off, you've been fat all your life, and then you burn off a lot of the fat. So you've had moments in your life when you've been less fat, but you've never had those moments where you don't have to be the clown at the party, or you don't have to be the center of attention because you're trying to move away from your fat self to something, having something that people find attractive. And I don't mean to get weird on this, but that is, I suppose that's something in a lot of fat people. I know it was definitely inside of me. And then when I actually saw that I got on with my journey, and I say that because I always wanted that goal. Oh, I want to get this much fat off, or I want to lose this much weight. And it's really important that you lose the type of weight you lose. So before you embark on Ozempic and these other things, if you already have, that's fine. Just make sure you get some resistance training in. You're going to have to lift those weights. And even I can show somebody how to be devastating with a couple of dumbbells and a bench in a garage. So you really don't need a lot to turn yourself into a whole different species. But that being the case, there was a lot of those mental stumbling blocks that I put into place to inhibit my ability to move forward. And one of them was the discussion about fasting and the research that I had to undergo to finally accept that I'm not going to lose any more muscle, and potentially less than doing a caloric restricted diet. Look into that. And then the other part of it was, I had been told all of my life that if you were to not eat, you would kill your metabolism. From the research I've seen, it seems that your metabolism goes up. Of course, your body thinks it's starving. And if human beings in our evolution, time on the planet, had ever been subject to a higher power, maybe that is something, the reason why other people fasted. But back to muscle, if we were going to have survived all those years, I don't believe not eating would have put us to sleep. Not eating really seems to turn on the engine, but something to explore for yourself. However, then you're dealing with the hunger portion of it. So once I put those things to rest, at least okay, not to eat for, it's going to be okay to miss a meal or two. Once I put that together, then I actually saw that missing more than a couple meals started to be very beneficial. The questions also come in, what about the hunger? You're going from eating like a king at 365 pounds with a 65-inch waist, really not a care in the world except for all the pain. Well, and I'll tell you this, you don't realize the pain you have until you don't have it, is a good way to look at that. I didn't realize what hurt because I had convinced myself that that's a normal procedure as you age. It's just normal to feel that wear and tear, those pains, those aches, getting up slow, lower back, all of that. It's just normal to feel that way. I was totally programmed and convinced until I got rid of it. And now I'm in this place, still on my journey, still not at a goal. Because I don't know about you, but for me, the chase is better than the catch. And I'm chasing this. Now I'm leaner than I've ever been, stronger than I've ever been, and I'm 55. I'm excited to see what 65 looks like. And using the fasting, something else you can look into, something called autophagy, It's that cellular cannibalism where basically if you don't eat for a period of time, and do your own research. I'm no doctor. You should always talk to your doctor, medical professional. Make sure this is just things that I looked up and I studied without a degree, without any other thing except finally getting my body fat off once for the final time in my life and now exploring that journey. But when I was looking at fasting, it seemed that that hunger came in. But then I realized that that hunger doesn't last that long. It comes in waves. So it's not a constant pelting of, oh my God, if you don't eat, something horrible is going to happen. You'll feel that way usually around your meal times. But if you can look at yourself as your own experiment, that's an easier way to program it because you have control, we have to admit, of what you put in your mouth. You have to admit it. I know that we eat. I ate a lot in the Jack in the Box parking lot. Jack in the Box parking lot. I ate a lot in the McDonald's parking lot. Most fast food restaurants I've eaten in their parking lots. Out of sight, out of mind, not around anybody, hiding, feeding, just because. Wasn't depressed, wasn't overly happy. It was just, I went into the drive-thru. I ordered a very large amount of food. I got up to the window. I paid. And it was usually 2 bags and 2 shakes. 2 of the large ice cream, whatever. And I remember that. And I remember pulling over. Well, I didn't want to be too close to the business. Don't want a lot of people to see you. Well, you actually don't want anybody to see you when you're doing that. So I moved over to the other side of the parking lot or somewhere where there really wasn't anybody. But you know what happens when you do that? Everybody wants to park next to you. Isn't that crazy? You go to try to hide out of sight, and all of a sudden you found the most popular place in the parking lot, and I wasn't even under a tree. That was just the way it seemed to work out. So then that part of it's finished, and I'm feeling pretty good. I'm completely full. But now we have to get rid of the evidence and also the smell. I said this on a show the other day. I found out that Febreze works really well for this. Those little car plug-in things. Oh my God, they're perfect. They cover it all. And you don't even have to get any of the fancy scents. In fact, I would just suggest you get the original and the little blue one, right? The Febreze. It's just incredible. So I was able to cover the smell easy. That was a very minor investment per month. And then the other part of it was now I had to get rid of the trash. I'm in the parking lot. You say, why don't you just go throw it in the McDonald's trash can? What if the drive-through person was walking out through the parking lot? And most of them, they haven't had their bodies are so young, they haven't had an opportunity to become metabolically unfit. They haven't had so they're somewhat in some semblance of skinny, maybe it's not shape, but skinny. And God forbid they see me throwing away all these bags and all these cups. So that's not going to work out. So I have to find another strategy. So I found bus stops work pretty good. But, how long are you going to be there? You're going to jump out of your car. If I'm driving by and I see you getting out of your car at a bus stop to empty something into the trash can, and you're holding a bag from Jack in the Box or McDonald's or a 4-cup holder because you couldn't just take the 2 shakes, they had to give you a 4-cup holder and you didn't say no. All of these things trying to make it over to the trash. I'm going to know what you're doing because I did that a lot and I understand that. So back to the fasting, all of that stuff had to be healed. And I find that it was a lot to keep up with. It took a lot of effort to keep up with that whole thing. And then the entire time while I was fat, I wasn't happy. I want to say there were some times of happiness in there, and I suppose that there were. But a consistent feeling of healthy happiness in reference to maybe taking good care of your investment, which is your body. Because when this thing starts to break down, it starts to get expensive. And whether you have insurance or don't have insurance, maybe you're at that point of your life, and I totally understand exactly what point that is. Really, trust me, you don't have insurance, you really want to make sure that you try to keep your engine as clean as possible, at least during that time you don't have insurance. And if that means doing your research on fasting, finding out how it does increase that thing I spoke about earlier called autophagy, and how that actually kills cancer. That's the research that I've done, so make sure you check. So, besides that, all of the stuff gets choked out when your body switches fuel systems, goes from, if you're eating carbohydrates, that's the sugar and the flour and pasta and bread and candy and milk and fruit, if alcohol, of course. But if you're eating that, I would suggest that more than likely you're a sugar burner. So that's the primary fuel your body's burning. Maybe in your lifetime you've never even burned off fat in the way of your metabolism doing it, more so than you getting to it after you've exhausted all your sugar reserves, which happens in caloric restriction. Again, climb down that rabbit hole, if you will. But that being the case, I discovered that once I stopped, I started this healing process, and I believe it helped me move through a lot of things. And realizing that if I cannot eat, there's really nothing I can't do. And I still test myself to bring us full circle. I still do my fasting because I have fluctuation points now. I'll get up 20, 30 pounds, and then I'll need to put that in check. And while a lot of it's probably muscle because of how hard I work out, I need to remember I know how I look, how my skin looks at a certain weight, what I can see. So that's the leanness of it. And that's something, I was fat all my life, folks. This is all new. Getting into some kind of shape, that's all new. And it doesn't seem like the goal is ever going to be here. But maybe a lot of you, I really enjoy the chase. I enjoy the hunt. So, as it is now, I'm going to keep myself in the best shape I can, insurance aside, and try to do my best to take care of this, which has done a great job taking care of me. And I heard it said the other day, maybe I said it, it's easier to be depressed when you're in better shape than it is worse shape. Easier to be sad when you are thinner than fatter, and healthier than unhealthy. Oh my gosh, everything is easier. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed today's show. I'll split this up into some shorts. Make sure you find the full video, which is probably pushing 10 or better minutes. Connor McIver, we'll talk to you soon. Over and out.